Shock Monkey Radio is created by adults for entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed here do not reflect the sponsors or FXPG Public Radio. For additional information, refer to the U.S. Bill of Rights. Stand warned. So the idea of controversial elections is nothing new. It's nothing new in this country. Excuse me. And so I want to go to the the unbiased source of Wikipedia. Wikipedia, all I did was search controversial elections in the United States, and I got this list. And if I'm wrong on any of these, or if Wikipedia is wrong, you should correct Wikipedia or me. You can email me at madman@fxbgpr.com if you like. Tell me where I'm wrong or where Wikipedia is wrong. But I'm just going to talk about a few of these contested, well, not necessarily contested, controversial elections. In 1792, New York gubernatorial election, the Federalist Party candidate John Jay received more votes than the Democratic-Republican Party candidate George Clinton. Not from Parliament, different guy. But on technicalities, out of votes of Otsego, Tioga, and Clinton counties were disqualified and not canvassed, giving George Clinton a slight majority in the official result. In the 1824 United States presidential election, John Quincy Adams became president after winning a contingent election in the House of Representatives due to the absence of a two-thirds majority in the Electoral College, despite the fact that Andrew Jackson, who would win the 1828 presidential election outright, won a plurality of the popular and electoral votes.
Now that's atomic.
That's atomic, dog. See, I'm sitting here reading stuff, and EK's just over there thinking of, how do I make a George Clinton joke? Anyway, Bleeding Kansas election, March 30th, 1855, an election to decide whether Kansas should be a free state or a slave state, involving massive immigration to sway the vote, and resulted in post-election violence, including a severe beating of a U.S. senator and a congressman. The events it encompasses directly presaged the American Civil War. This is all a part of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, because both of those states were trying to join the Union, and people were telling them, pick a side. It was awful. It was awful. Anyway, 1876 presidential election. One of the most disputed and controversial elections. We'll come back and talk about this at the end here. It was between the Democratic Party candidate Samuel J. Tilden and the Republican Party's Rutherford B. Hayes. It was resolved by the Compromise of 1877. We'll talk about that later, which allowed Hayes to become president in exchange for the end of the Reconstruction era in the South and withdrawal of federal troops stationed in the South after the Civil War. Although it is agreed that Tilden won a majority of the popular vote, the results of the electoral vote continued to be disputed. Now, I just want to point out real quick that if you weren't paying attention, the Democratic Party was the Democratic Party of the racist South. Tilden won the popular vote. But we got to talk about this more later. But they gave it to Hayes. They gave the election to Hayes if he moved all his troops out, and this was like the official end of the Reconstruction era in the South. All right. 1888 presidential election. The incumbent president, Grover Cleveland, won a majority of the popular vote, but Benjamin Harrison won the electoral vote, and Cleveland was later reelected in the 1892 election. 1948, United States Senate election in Texas. Lyndon B. Johnson won the Democratic primary over Coke R. Stevenson by only 87 votes. However, Johnson was accused of voter fraud in Duval County, as initially it appears that Stevenson had won, but later on more votes were allegedly found for Johnson. See, this is old hat for Democrats. Okay, the 2000 presidential election. Now we're getting into people you might have actually people you might actually have remembered. In the 2000 presidential election, after a close election in which the winner was unclear, Republican candidate George W. Bush won Florida by such a slim margin that a recount of the votes was triggered under Florida state law, beginning a series of legal battles between Bush and the Democratic candidate Al Gore and considerable public controversy. After the completion of the machine recount, the Florida Supreme Court ordered manual recount due to continued concerns over the validity of the election. The case was appealed to the Supreme Court, which halted the recount in the Bush versus Gore and Bush versus Palm County Canvassing Board decisions, allowing Bush to capture the state of Florida by a 0.0009% margin and win the electoral vote. 2002, we're going to skip the gubernatorials and stuff, and Senate. All right, and as you remember, in 2016, the election was widely characterized as divisive and negative, plagued by scandals of the Republican candidate Donald Trump's alleged sexual misconduct and Democratic candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton's alleged improper use of an email server. That's a fairly impartial sentence. Well done, whoever wrote that for Wikipedia. No, alleged, yeah, on both sides. No Russian citizen accused of interfering with the election in the form of online influencing from a St. Petersburg-based troll farm, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you remember all of this. And this was the last presidential election. All right? Now you're turning around and saying it's like, oh, this is America's election. They're always free and fair as long as it turns out the way you want it. You know? All of you, the day before the election, were scared there's going to be all sorts of Republican voter fraud. We're going to be stuffing the ballots. The Republicans are going to be trying to outstuff you, outstuffing the ballots. All right? So this kind of thing is not new when it comes to American elections. The media has never declared the winner for certain. All right? They declare a projected winner. And their projected winner may be correct. It may actually be Biden who won the election. And I don't care. Win or lose, I win. Because I know that the conservatives have picked up a bunch in the House and the Senate. Okay? So even if it's Biden who gets elected, he's going to have a lame duck session, most likely. So I'm not really worried about that. I can believe that the American public has said, we don't want any more of this Trump bullshit, and we don't want any more of this crazy liberal stuff. So they got rid of the crazy leftists in Congress. And if they had to get rid of Trump to get them to calm down, then that's probably a good call, even though Biden is a puppet. And, you know, being run by his wife in the Democratic National Committee. All right. And Kamala Harris, God forbid something happens to Joe and she gets in charge. That woman's insane. That woman's like a supervillain. All right. And it could be that Biden wins. But you got to understand it's that because all these contests are so close. They are so close, and that's why they need to be counted. When it was the 2000 election, you're talking about just Florida alone, one state. Now you're talking about like 2 or 3 states here in this particular election that are contested. Probably Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona. That's what I'm picking up. Those 3 states. I love elections. Elections are so awesome because the founding fathers, they really understood the idea of compartmentalization in when it comes to like ships. Like when I learned this in the Navy, in the Navy, if you have a ship and you have all these different compartments and you seal them all off, if you take a hit or you start taking in water on the ship, that one compartment gets flooded and not the whole ship gets flooded and sinks. And so they have this electoral process that is very much compartmentalized, you know, where every district and every vote matters, and it could come down to that district in the next election. You know, you could say all the time that, you know, the candidates only visit certain states. And yeah, it's true. There are battleground states that they're always going to. But sometimes the election can come down to votes in Georgia, you know, and those votes are crucial to the election. So you're talking about several different states where Trump is filing suits to seek out his, I think it's his right and his duty to follow up on the allegations of election fraud. Absolutely. Nothing new. And especially in such a fractious time as such a character as Donald Trump, as such a character as he, you know, you got to think there's something going on. But I do believe that the American people, I think that what's great about our elections, what's great about the American elections is that the American people could have voted for Biden. All right. Even conservatives could have voted for Biden. We want to get rid of Trump because he's making too many people crazy. They could have voted that way, so we'll put Biden in, but I'll vote Republican the rest of the way down. All right? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's your right as an American. And, you know, it's quite rare in elections that you get to choose, like, who you get to vote for line item. line item position. All right. For example, in other countries, some other countries, if you vote for a party, you vote for a party. So if in some other, I think it's like Israel, I'm not sure, where you vote for the party. So if you come in to vote, you vote for either Democrat, Republican, or Independent. All right, and that means that every candidate goes to that position. But you could say for the president, I want a Democrat. I want the Democrat candidate. But for the Senate, I want the Republican candidate. For the House, I want the Republican candidate. For the governor, I want the Republican candidate. Absolutely, because that's the whole purpose of government, is to keep each other in check. And if Trump is driving these people crazy so much, and you want to just get rid of them to maybe calm the waters a little bit, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, even if Trump goes out, I mean, the conservative movement is going and living and thriving. All right, just go on the internet, watch some Louder with Crowder, pay attention to Ben Shapiro. All right. The conservative movement isn't going to die, and the fight of the conservatives isn't going to stop. All right? Trump is not the end-all, be-all of the conservatives. All right? Thank God. Thank God. I mean, believe me, I would love to think that for the next 4 years, we're not going to hear Trump's nonsense rambling. We're going to listen to a different old guy rambling. All right? I'm fine. I'm going to be fine no matter what. I don't care. I know I predicted it wrong, but we'll see. We'll see